Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, Recreation in Southeastern Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island, is pleased to welcome you to another fun-filled episode. Enjoy the show.
Ahoy there, and welcome to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, Recreation in Southeastern Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island. I'm Will Morrissey, I'm your host for the show, and I'm glad you're here because we'd like to tell you a little bit about all the different things that are available to do in Southeastern Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island. Bridget and I wrote the book for all those folks that are moving into the area, whether they're building submarines or the brave souls that are actually driving the submarines. We've got students at Mitchell College, UConn at Avery Point, Connecticut College, got all the cadets at the Coast Guard Academy. Lots of visitors coming into the area, and so we just like to let you know all the different things that are available to you. So we have the book and we're doing this show. Bridget knows a lot about what's going on. She's a realtor that covers from Old Lyme to Charlestown. She zigzags from Mystic to Mashantucket to Uncasville. She's all over the area on the back roads because she hates driving on I-95. But can you blame her? Not at all. But we've got all kinds of different things to talk about. And today we're going to be going over to Westerly. We have Carly Callahan from the United here today. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Will. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. We're so pleased that you're here. And Bridget and I have been to the United and have seen the changes over the years, and especially the last couple of years. And can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the theater?
Absolutely. Well, I am a new Rhode Islander myself. I was born and bred in Connecticut, in Simsbury, Connecticut, and then spent over 14 years in Madison, Connecticut. During that time, I was working in New York in theatrical producing, commercial Broadway productions, and loved what I was doing, was really having a career that was fulfilling and inspiring and all of the things. But to go backwards a little bit in my own story, I grew up sailing out of Dotson Boatyard in Stonington. And we
you're
had
right
this,
here, huh?
Yeah, and it makes it sound much fancier than we actually were, to be clear. But we had this little boat. It started with a 23-footer and ended up as a 38-foot sailboat where the 5 of us would pile in every weekend. And our big journey was leaving Stonington Harbor and going out and taking a left and another left and going into Napatri and anchoring in Napatri Harbor. And invariably overnight at the middle of the night, everyone would start to drag when there was slack tide, and it was chaotic in the most fun of ways, adventures of a young family. And so I spent a lot of time at Napatri. I remember the Ocean House from the before times when it was creaky and seemed, kind of spooky and mysterious. And of course the Carousel and Westerly and Stonington. So that was kind of embedded as part of my deepest of memories. And I was working, fast forward to about, I guess now, 3 or so years ago, I was working on a project that was coming to Broadway. It was being incubated at La Jolla Playhouse out in La Jolla, California. My wonderful father, Frank Drenginis, ended up having a lunch with one of his dear friends from Madison and one of his friends' friends who was up here and was familiar with the wonderful Dick Holliday. And so they had lunch, and the conversation turned, as it often does, to what do your kids do? And my dad mentioned my work in theater and producing. And my dad's, Dick Holliday rather, said to my father, you really should send me your daughter's resume. And because there's this place called the United, and they're looking for an executive director. And it's a really amazing project. And I think she would be interested in learning more about it. And my dear father called me out in California and said, I heard about this place called the United in Westerly, and you should send me your resume. Number one, I didn't have a resume. Number two, I wasn't looking for a job. But dads have an intuition, right? And he kept on hounding me.
He just wanted to bring you home.
He did. Well, and I think he also, he was knew that I had, and we had kind of this deep history with the area. I was commuting into New York. My husband, Matt, had now for 11 years has been a professor of finance at Providence College. So he was going back and forth to Providence every day. And we were in Madison. So we were like two rubber bands. So at long last, I relented. I threw something together, a resume that was okay at best, but representative of my experience. passed it along to my father, who passed it along to Dick, who passed it along to Chuck Royce. And, you know, a few hours later, I had the email in my inbox from Chuck saying that we should talk. And I didn't know Chuck at the time, but I, of course, did a little Googling and understood that he was behind the revitalization, certainly of the Ocean House, but more importantly, the revitalization of Westerly, and was really fundamentally, in addition to being a philanthropist and a visionary, he's an architect of community. And I was very curious to learn more about him and his work and the United. And I came up to Westerly to meet him and some of his colleagues. And you know, the cognitive dissonance that happens when you remember a place as a certain way, especially when you're 12, 13 years old, and then you come back as an almost 50-year-old decades later, look around and say, this is not at all what I remembered. You know, I had vague memories of Wilcox Park and maybe a little bit of Canal Street, but frankly, Westerly was not at all in my memory what I saw that day when I first met Chuck.
Well, we have a little history, a little video, a little history about the United and what you're talking about. So why don't we run that video?
First opened as a popular vaudeville venue in 1926, the United Theater later became a cinema, which closed in 1986. In 2015, our founding board members came together to envision a center for the arts housed within the United Theater and the adjacent Montgomery Ward building, a unified complex to unite the community through the arts. In 2019, after several years of consulting, designing, and fundraising, an ambitious 2-year renovation project was embarked upon. In the interim, community partnerships were developed, pop-up programming was produced, and key staff members were hired. Finally, after much anticipation, the United reopened to the public on July 9th, 2021. Since then, we have welcomed thousands of movie lovers, excited live performance fans, and curious arts learners into our unique and dynamic art space.
I'm guessing that looking at that video and seeing the date, January 16th, 1926, might have a lot to do with what's coming up this next year.
Yeah, so, you know, 26, so the United, as the video reference, started as a vaudeville house in 1926. It quickly turned over to a movie theater, and subsequently, there are so many stories of people going to the movies at the United and having first kisses and all sorts of shenanigans in the balcony. And people, you know, a movie theater was, and to a certain extent is, one of those tent poles in what makes a community thrive. And so it was a thriving part of the scene of downtown Westerly, and then in the late 80s went dark. And the streetscape of Westerly and the community generally really was, I don't want to say boarded up, but certainly not what one would describe as vital. So as the video just beautifully referenced, over the course of the pandemic, this new complex was imagined called the United, which is the old vaudeville house and the adjacent Montgomery Ward department store. So during the course of the renovation, those two spaces were put together to create the United, which is not just one space. The United consists of our main black box space, which can accommodate up to 700 people for live events. There are 3 movie theaters, our balcony cinema, which is part of that main vaudeville house, which accommodates 99, our micro cinema, which accommodates 24, and our main cinema, which is a very traditional movie theater that accommodates 76. In addition to that, we have what was the storefront of the Montgomery Ward department store, which is our gallery and live event space. And that is a wonderful space where we are activating it all the time as an entrance for our live events, as an ancillary space for when we have a speaker in the main cinema. There'll be a tasting of whatever the speaker, if it's in the culinary realm, was talking about in the gallery. We do parties in there. We do a speaker series, literary salons, all sorts of things. So there's that space. And then what's so cool about the United, and I think one of the most special parts of what it is that beneath the United, in the basement, is our United Music School, which, if you're familiar with the building, the entrance for the audience is right on Canal Street in the front, and behind is the music school entrance. And so about 400 students a week, mostly kids, but there are about 40 adult students. Our oldest is a octogenarian ukulele player, come in through those rear doors, and they are taking lessons in everything from, percussion, voice, guitar, piano, everything. If there's an interest in a student studying an instrument that we don't have, or we don't have the faculty to teach, we'll find a teacher for that student. And so that's happening underneath the United. And what that creates is a really symbiotic organization where up top we have the current generation of artists and audiences doing their thing. And below us, we have the next generation of artists and audience that are, So there's true, we talk a lot in the nonprofit world about sustainability and the importance of sustainability. In our mind, true sustainability happens when you have a structure and an organization that is not just thinking about today, but thinking about 10, 20, 50 years down the road, long after I will have been a part of it. But making sure that we are that next generation is being cultivated. So the entirety of the building is about 33,000 square feet, and there are about 65,000 people that come through the doors between the education programming and all the other programming that we do every single year. And that geography of people is concentrated mostly, I would say, in the New Haven to Providence to Hartford kind of triangle. But we have some of our big live events that we're checking IDs at the door, and we're tracking over 30 different states. We had one event where we had 3 different countries represented. So we're getting people from all over the place, which is really, really cool.
Well, you got them locally. That's how I met you, is when you hosted a Chamber of Commerce event. And took us on a tour of all those places. And so I could see where you can have people come in if they wanted to do a meeting, and have different things. The gallery was nice. I mean, it was to go through there, but you also, being the theater, also have the snack bar and
a full liquor license for those that are so inclined. And we really, our mission is to unite the community through the arts. One of our submissions, and there are quite a few of them, is to amplify the work of the nonprofits in our community and give a physical space for other nonprofits to have events, to have lecture series, to sponsor performances, to really show that there is such a rich and broad array of really great work being done to make our community a wonderful place to live. When I'm speaking to donors and potential supporters, I use the term selfish philanthropy, which means you're supporting something that is really, in my mind, increasing quality of life. To have a place like the United to come to and to be learning and experiencing all sorts of live music, entertainment, book talks, everything under the sun. For me personally, taking my executive director hat off and just saying, as a new resident of Westerly, it increases hugely my quality of life. And there are a lot of organizations in our community. The YMCA does that. The Granite Theater is doing it. There's a new Museum of American Impressionism that's going up in Avondale, opening late summer, that's doing it. There's so many. And you know this intimately from bringing so many nonprofits on. You could go on. And how lucky are we to have a community that has that deep of a bench?
We're very lucky with all the different performances you have too. You can tell us a little bit about them as we run this next video. That'd be great.
Absolutely. So we have everything under the sun going on our calendar. Films, of course, Lilo and Stitch just opened this past week. Mission Impossible as well. It was a record-breaking weekend for films, which was great. The Shrouds that's coming up, that's going to be fantastic. Our alt comedy regional showcase this weekend, that is amazing, including the Sloppy Boys, which are as fun as the title would suggest. Citizen Kane is part of our Rewind series, where we're highlighting old films. Similarly with A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The Literary Salon, I can talk more about that in a bit, but that's a wonderful free event. Soul Rebels is going to be a really fun concert coming up to celebrate the summer. People's Joker, a lot of fun. United We Laugh is our comedy series that is a regular fixture of our work. An older film, which is great. Voices of Westerly, which I can talk a little bit more about as well. I'm hosting the wonderful Dawn Tripp. Yeah. Jackie, that's a great book. That's a fantastic book. We do a lot of author series, which is great. Langhorne Slim, which many of your viewers are probably aware, fantastic artist. My goodness, it just goes on. And yes, and that's the best way to know what's going on every week at the United. If you go to our website, United Theater, and that's spelled theatre.org. There is a window where you can sign up and give us your email address. We have a weekly email blast that goes out every week and is updating everyone with all that is going on. We are open 365 days a year.
Wow.
And which makes everyone very tired but satisfied. And you know, the calendar, and I can hold this up too, this is our May and June calendar. You may see these around town. And they are inserted into some local newspapers as well. The idea with the calendar, Will, is that it is not designed for everyone every day to say, this is exactly what I want to do. But our idea is that most people will find a few things every month that is interesting for them to do. Like last weekend, I think was a very good example. We had, on Friday night, we had Gianni Schicchi from our partners at Salt Marsh Opera, the really fun opera with such talented singers. So this is 72 Hours in the Life of the United. Gianni Schicchi. The next night we had Hamilton Lighthouser, who was the lead singer of the Walkmen. Very cool, vibey, live music crowd. And then the night after that, we have a wonderful partnership with Eating with the Ecosystem, which is a Rhode Island nonprofit that is really drawing attention to place-based aquaculture. And what that means is they're talking to our community about how important it is when you're choosing what type of seafood to eat and order at a restaurant, to recognize that we should be thinking about what is available, what is sustainable, And so they do wonderful lecture series, and we do a tasting right afterwards. So we had David Stanridge from Shipwright's Daughter. He was
the James Beard Award winner.
And he spoke, and I have all the respect in the world for him. I'm a foodie
that's
myself.
like winning an Oscar.
Yes.
For a movie.
Yes.
To win the James Beard, that's as good as you can get.
Absolutely.
And he's right here.
Right here. And so he and some other speakers through Eating with the Ecosystem talked about the importance of eating in a way that contextualizes where we are in terms of our ecosystem. And so he, after this lecture, everyone retired to the gallery where we had tasting of this wonderful green crab bisque. And so anyway, that's 72 hours in the life of the United. And I like to think that 72% of the population in our area would think maybe one of those sounded fun. Oh, and on top of that, of course, were all of our films and everything else. So if none of those appeal to you.
It looks like you have 3 or 4 events a day.
Well, we have, it's
many days.
Many days. I mean, we have a lot that is going on all the time. And if there's not something on the calendar one day, I'm pretty confident that you could find something else.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Voices of Westerly. You mentioned that, and then also tell us about the book, Jackie.
Yeah, so Voices of Westerly is a series that was inspired by, if you go to the United, in the long white hallway where the restrooms are, the photographer Josh Bean, who's so fantastic, he's a local photographer, he curated a whole series of black and white portraits of people in the community that contribute to kind of the cultural tapestry and richness of what's going on at the United. So this is in the hallway, and you can come pop in and see it. And Tony Noon's our artistic director, brings some of those people up on our gallery stage for the series called Voices of Westerly, where the conversation is similar to the beginning of our conversation of why are you here? How did you get here? What do you do? What is your imagination for the community? These conversations are recorded, and they're QR coded on at the portrait, so you can scan and listen in your ear and hear some of these people tell their stories of what's going on. The next Voices of Westerly is next Wednesday, I believe. And that is going to be, 2 Wednesdays from now, June 11th. And we have a wonderful team member of ours, actually, who is, in addition to the work she does for us, which is fantastic, she is a beekeeper. And she has this fascinating story of the work that she does in beekeeping. And
wasn't yesterday the World Bee Day?
It might have been.
I think it was.
If so, I missed it. So my apologies. But that is a free event. A lot of our events are free or low cost. The Voices of Westerly is completely free. Another wonderful series that we have is the Michael DePaula Literary Salon. That is happening next Wednesday and happens every other month. Michael was a team member of ours who tragically passed away. He was a wonderful and valuable member of our team. He was also an artist and a poet. And so Michael, you could find him at the United, or he'd be sitting at the counter at Nana's. He always had a notebook with him, and he was always writing poetry, and just a very kind, artistic, generous soul. So when he passed, we started this series in his honor, which is essentially an open mic for authors to come and poets to come. And the wonderful Jess over at Martin House curates some kind of ringers to start the literary salon. And, we had Luann Rice here or there about a year ago.
Have you seen her lately?
Yes, I love her.
Yeah, we went to high school together.
She's fantastic.
She is.
She's fantastic. And she came and she did a reading. And so then it goes from this introduction piece to people can sign up. And poets and authors who are experienced and people who have never read their work out loud before get up on stage in our gallery and read to this audience, which is the most appreciative community. And it's really grown over the last couple of years. And so if you're out there and you have a piece of poetry or a book that you're working on, or you should come and do a little reading of what it is that you're working on. And it's just a really wonderful community of like-minded folks who are just engaging with their own creative work.
Well, we'll have to take you up on that. But you know what? You mentioned the music school.
Yeah.
And we have a video on that. Can we run that, please, Michael?
The United Music School offers a range of music education programs and performance opportunities to people of all ages, incomes, and ability levels. There are convenient lessons and exciting ensembles being created across different musical styles. You will find something for everyone. Let the United be your favorite place to jam, create, and perform. The United Music School is a state-of-the-art music education center located within the United Cultural Campus in downtown Westerly. From the extremely popular band camp at the United Music School to new programs in dance, film, visual arts, musical theater, songwriting, and more. We have programs and performance opportunities for your kiddos. Our students learn from our large faculty of working musicians, play on world-famous stages, and engage with touring artists. Our goal is not only to guide the musicians of tomorrow, but also to produce happy, confident human beings. The United Music School offers lessons in bagpipes, banjo, baritone, bass guitar, button accordion, clarinet, double bass, flute, guitar, harp, mandolin, percussion, piano, saxophone, tin whistle, trombone, trumpet, ukulele, viola, violin, and voice. Students grow at their own pace. We meet them where they are and guide them in achieving their goals. Consistency, practice, motivation, work ethic, kindness, and respect are coached weekly. There's a reason it's called playing music. It's supposed to be fun.
Well, I was born in the territory of Hawaii. I ought to come over for ukulele lessons.
You should. Ukulele's super fun. And what's neat about, there's so many things neat about the United Music School. One of them is that we have an instrument lending library. So for someone like yourself that would say, maybe I want to take up the ukulele. Now, typically you have to buy or rent a ukulele, and you may like the ukulele and you may say, you know what, actually I think I want to be a bagpiper instead. The lending library is completely free and allows students of any age to be able to come and try something out to see if it's the right fit, because it's finding the right instrument to learn is like saying, what's my favorite food, or what's my favorite art. You got to try it, right? So it's a wonderful thing. And the music school, I could go on and on about some key points about the music school are that, number one, it's allowing these kids to interface with the artists often that we have up in our black box. And these are world-class artists, and they'll go to a sound check, or sometimes they get to meet them. Sometimes there's a master class. We have people who will buy tickets to some of the concerts and donate them to the music school, which is wonderful, so that kids who otherwise couldn't attend can attend. It's a great opportunity for the kids to be able to see kind of the highest and best version of what comes from music education. But I think the real magic of what happens in the music school is the way that Tom Foley and his team are engendering such a sense of camaraderie and teamsmanship amongst the students. They have all these different ensembles and bands that some of them are kind of superimposed on them, and some of them are naturally emerging from these kids meeting one another and being like, hey, you play the drum? I play the guitar, and you're a singer. Let's form a band. And we have this great program called Youth on the Mic that happens every other month. And that just happened at the Nick the other night. And we had, I think, 200 people that showed up. These kids, kind of like the literary salon, but for music and for kids. They come and they
Dave
show
Whipple,
up.
he's a guitar player with Shandy and the Whip, and I believe his son was playing the drums in that group.
That's awesome. And seeing these kids get up and do their thing is great, but what makes it truly magical is seeing their peers and the audience and cheering them on and giving them that support. And you've got the kid who is really nervous, who's never played the recorder before in front of someone, to the kid who's now become like a seasoned performer and super confident. So it's really, I feel like the United Music School is providing these kids with empathy, teamsmanship, self-confidence, an ability and a way for them to express themselves in a world that unfortunately lives in this dichotomy of creation and making on social media, but actually is, I think, squelching a lot of these kids' creativity and agency.
Not a lot of kids get to, hit a home run or score a touchdown or be great in track or anything. Yeah. All those people playing sports get that team feeling.
Yep.
And you get that with the music,
yes.
Putting it together.
And it's so great to see. I grew up as a singer, and I was so hungry to feel like I was part of something. Mm-hmm. And I tried to play field hockey to no avail. And all I wanted to do was wear the T-shirt and feel like I was part of something bigger than just myself going into an audition or a competition. And I'll tell you, these kids down at the music school, they have that sense of teamsmanship.
We have one more video that really want to play. Can you run that for us, Mike? This one
The United Theater brings a great music school and great performances to the region. You can show your support for the arts and for your community. Generous contributions allow the United to bring a diversity of dynamic programming to the region, benefiting both locals and visitors alike. Your donation will help us provide scholarships to students in need, engage audiences with live performances, film screenings, and special events, and maintain our state-of-the-art facility. To donate online, click the Donate button and follow the prompts. Online donations are made securely through PayPal or your credit or debit card. To donate by mail, please make your check payable to the United Theater and mail your gift to the United Theater, P.O. Box 384, Westerly, RI 02891. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Carly. Time goes by so fast.
It
and
does.
there's just so much to say.
Yeah, thank you, Will. This
really
has been
appreciate
great.
you being here.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks to everyone out there for the support. Please come by if you haven't. Ask for me. I'm always happy to give a tour, show you behind the scenes, and give you a greater sense of the work we're doing. But we really appreciate the support, and thanks for the time today, Will.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great.
Well, that's the show. We'll see you next time.